They say the coldest nights reveal who we truly are. For Mara Ellison, a frozen December evening stripped away everything: her marriage, her home, her belief that she mattered. Thrown into the snow by a husband who called her broken, she sat in a bus shelter with nowhere to go and no one to call. But sometimes, when we lose everything, we finally make room for what we were always meant to find. This is the story of a woman discarded and a family that chose her anyway. What? Before we begin, I want you to stay with me until the very end of this journey. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels, how many hearts it reaches across the world. Now, let's step into that frozen night together. The snow fell like accusations, silent, relentless, burying everything beneath its weight. Mara Ellison sat hunched inside the bus shelter at the corner of 7th and Madison, her thin cotton dress doing nothing against the December wind that cut through the plexiglass walls like a serrated knife. Her arms were wrapped around herself, fingers buried in her own sides, trying to create warmth where there was none. Her breath came out in short, visible bursts, little clouds of proof that she was still alive, still breathing, even though part of her wished she wasn't. 3 hours. That's how long she'd been sitting here. 3 hours since Richard had thrown the divorce papers at her feet like trash. 3 hours since he'd shoved her out the front door with nothing but the dress on her back and words that still burned in her ears. You're defective. What kind of woman can't give her husband children? You're useless to me. She closed her eyes, but that only made his face clearer. The contempt in his expression, the disgust curling his lip like she was something diseased. 7 years of marriage, and it had come down to this. Medical reports that said her body couldn't do the one thing he'd decided mattered most. Never mind the dinners she'd cooked, the house she'd maintained, the lonely nights she'd waited up for him while he stayed late at the office with his secretary. None of that counted. Her worth had been reduced to a single biological function, and when she'd failed at it, she'd been discarded. The bus shelter's bench was metal and unforgiving beneath her. She'd stopped feeling her legs about an hour ago. The cold had moved past discomfort into something more insidious, a creeping numbness that started at her toes and worked its way up, making her drowsy in a way that scared her. She knew what that meant: hypothermia. She'd read about it once, how it made you feel warm right before it killed you, how it whispered sweet lies about rest and peace. A bus pulled up, its doors hissing open. The driver, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, looked at Mara with something between pity and wariness. You getting on, honey? Mara shook her head. She had no money. Her purse was still in the house. Richard's house now, along with her phone, her identification, everything that proved she existed. You can't stay out here, the driver said, not unkindly. It's supposed to drop to 15 degrees tonight. I'll be fine, Mara heard herself say. The lie tasted like metal. The driver hesitated, clearly torn between compassion and the schedule she had to keep. Finally, with a sad shake of her head, she closed the doors and pulled away, leaving Mara alone with the snow and the dark. The streets of downtown Minneapolis were emptying fast. Smart people were home, wrapped in blankets, drinking hot chocolate, complaining about the weather from the safety of their heated living rooms. Mara watched them through the windows of passing cars, families, couples, individuals who all had somewhere to go, someone waiting for them. She had tried the shelters, all 3 within walking distance. One was full. The second wouldn't take her without ID. The third had a line of people stretching around the block, and the volunteer had told her honestly, "We're at capacity. Try the church on Hennepin." She'd walked to the church on Hennepin. It was locked, a sign on the door apologizing for emergency repairs to the heating system. So she'd come back here, to this bus shelter, because it was the only place that offered even the illusion of protection from the wind. A couple walked past, arms linked, laughing about something. The woman looked over, caught Mara's eye, and quickly looked away, pulling her boyfriend closer as if poverty and desperation might be contagious. Mara didn't blame her. She probably looked like she'd crawled out of a nightmare. Hair tangled, mascara streaked down her cheeks from tears that had frozen on her face, dress wrinkled and insufficient. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman with nowhere to go. Her mind kept circling back to Richard, picking at the wound like a tongue worrying a loose tooth. She'd known, hadn't she? Deep down, she'd known the marriage was dying long before tonight. It had been dying for 2 years, ever since that first doctor's appointment when they'd started trying for a baby. When months passed with no pregnancy, Richard had grown cold. When the tests came back showing severe endometriosis and scarring that made natural conception nearly impossible, he'd grown cruel. The suggestions for adoption or surrogacy had been met with dismissive waves of his hand. "I want my own children," he'd said. "My bloodline. That's not negotiable." As if her inability to provide that was a personal betrayal rather than a medical reality she had no control over. She'd tried. God, how she'd tried. Experimental treatments that left her sick and exhausted. Surgeries that promised hope but delivered nothing. Every negative pregnancy test had felt like another nail in the coffin of their marriage, another piece of evidence that she was failing at the fundamental purpose Richard had assigned to her existence. And then, 3 weeks ago, she'd come home early from the grocery store to find Richard in their bed with Melissa from his office. He hadn't even had the decency to look ashamed. "She's pregnant," he'd said, as if that explained everything, as if that justified everything. Tonight, he'd made it official, handed her the papers, told her to sign, told her to get out. "Where am I supposed to go?" she'd asked, her voice breaking. "That's not my problem anymore, Mab," he'd replied. Not his problem. 7 years of her life, and she'd become not his problem. A gust of wind rattled the bus shelter, and Mara pulled her arms tighter around herself. She could feel the cold now in her bones, in her teeth, in the very center of her chest, where her heart kept beating despite her growing conviction that it shouldn't bother. She thought about her mother, who'd died of cancer 6 years ago. Her father, who'd remarried and moved to Arizona, sending Christmas cards but nothing more substantial. She had no siblings. Her friends from college had drifted away during the marriage. Richard hadn't liked them, thought they were bad influences, so she'd let them go one by one until she was isolated with only him. This was what she'd built her life on. Sand, apparently. One strong wind, and it had all blown away. Maybe it would be easier, she whispered to the empty air, to just stop trying. The thought came with a seductive simplicity. She could stop trying to stay warm, stop trying to figure out where to go, stop trying to survive in a world that had made it abundantly clear she wasn't wanted. She could just let go, let the cold take her. In the morning, someone would find her, and wouldn't that be Richard's fault? Wouldn't he have to live with that? But even as the thought formed, something in her, some stubborn, stupid spark, rebelled against it. No, not like this. You will not let him win. The snow was falling heavier now, fat flakes that stuck to her eyelashes and melted on her frozen cheeks. The streetlights had halos around them, golden and surreal. The world was taking on that muffled quality that came with heavy snowfall, sounds dampened, everything soft and distant. She was starting to feel warm. That scared her. That's when she heard the voices. "Daddy, look, that lady doesn't have a coat." Mara forced her eyes open. Through the curtain of snow, she could make out shapes approaching. A tall man and 3 smaller figures, all bundled in winter gear that made them look like colorful marshmallows. "Shh, Nora," the man said gently. "Don't point." But the children weren't listening. They'd stopped in front of the bus shelter, staring at her with the open, uncomplicated concern of the young. The man, tall, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair dusted in snow and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, knelt down beside the bench. His coat was expensive, she noticed distantly. Wool, well-made. The kind of coat that cost more than her wedding dress had. "Ma'am," he said softly, "are you all right?" The question was so absurd that Mara almost laughed. She was sitting in a bus shelter in a thin dress in sub-zero weather with nowhere to go and no one to call. Was she all right? "I'm fine," she said. Her voice came out hoarse, unfamiliar. "You're not fine," a small voice piped up. A girl, maybe 7 years old, with pigtails poking out from under a purple knit hat. "You're freezing. You're shaking all over." "Nora," the man said again, but there was no real reproach in it. "She needs help, Daddy," one of the boys said, older, maybe 10, with serious eyes. "We can't just leave her here." "Nobody asked for your help," Mara said, trying to sound firm, trying to sound like she had any control over anything. "I'm waiting for someone." It was a transparent lie, and they all knew it. The man studied her for a long moment. She couldn't read his expression. It wasn't pity exactly, but it wasn't indifference either. It was something softer, something that made her chest ache. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. She tried to remember. Breakfast, maybe? Had she eaten breakfast? It felt like a lifetime ago. "I'm not hungry," she lied. "Liar," the smallest child said cheerfully. He looked about 5, gap-toothed and fearless. "Your tummy is growling. I can hear it from here." Despite everything, Mara felt her lips twitch. The child's honesty was disarming in a way adult diplomacy never could be. The man stood up slowly, brushing snow off his knees. For a moment, Mara thought he was going to walk away, take his children and leave her to her pride and her cold. Instead, he shrugged off his coat. "What are you doing?" she asked, alarmed. "Giving you this," he said simply, holding it out to her. "You need it more than I do." "I can't." "Yes, you can." His voice was kind but firm. "Please." "Daddy's really warm," the little boy offered. "He's like a furnace. Mommy used to say so." The mention of Mommy, in past tense, hung in the air for just a second, a small window into this family's own story of loss. Mara looked at the coat, then at the man, then at the 3 children staring at her with identical expressions of concern. Something inside her, that last wall of pride, began to crumble. I can't pay you back," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to." He stepped closer, draping the coat over her shoulders before she could protest further. The warmth of it, retaining his body heat, was shocking. She hadn't realized how cold she'd gotten until she felt something warm again. "Thank you," she managed, and was horrified to feel tears pricking at her eyes again. "Where are you headed tonight?" he asked gently. The question that had no good answer. Mara looked down at her hands, blue-tinged, trembling. I don't know." The children exchanged glances, having some silent communication that only siblings shared. The oldest boy tugged on his father's sleeve. "Dad?" he said quietly. "We can't leave her here. You know we can't." The man, Daddy, as they called him, let out a slow breath, fog in the cold air. He looked at Mara again, really looked at her, and she saw the war happening behind his eyes. Caution versus compassion. Wisdom versus kindness. Finally, he made his decision. "Ma'am," he said, and something in his formality made it clear this was a significant offer. "I know you don't know us. I know this is unusual, but we live 4 blocks from here, and we have a guest room with clean sheets and a lock on the door. If you need a place to stay tonight, just tonight, you're welcome to it. No strings, no expectations, just a warm bed and safety." Mara stared at him. In what world did this happen? In what reality did a stranger offer shelter to a woman they'd found in a bus stop? "We're not serial killers," the girl, Nora, added helpfully. "Promise." "Nora," the man said, but he was fighting a smile. "Well, we're not," she defended. "She should know that." "I'm Cole Harrington," the man said, offering his hand. "This is Jacob, Nora, and Finn. We're just a family trying to do the right thing. You can say no, I'll understand completely, but please, think about it. It's going to get colder, and—" He trailed off, leaving the dire possibilities unspoken. Mara looked at his hand, steady, calloused, extended in genuine offering. She looked at the children, their faces open and earnest. She looked at the empty street, the falling snow, the long cold night ahead. Every lesson about stranger danger warred with the simple fact that she was freezing and alone and out of options. Every instinct for self-preservation clashed with the reality that staying here was its own kind of danger, and underneath it all, a small voice, maybe her mother's, maybe her own, whispered, "Sometimes angels come in unexpected forms." "Just for tonight?" she heard herself ask. "Just for tonight," Cole confirmed. "You can leave first thing in the morning if you want. No questions asked." Mara took a shaky breath. What did she have to lose? She'd already lost everything else. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." The children's faces lit up like Christmas lights. Finn, the youngest, reached out and took her hand in his mittened one. "Come on," he said brightly. "Our house is really warm, and we have hot chocolate. Daddy makes the best hot chocolate in the whole world." "Second best," Jacob corrected. "Mom's was the best." Oh yeah, Finn said solemnly, but Daddy's is second best. Cole bent down and picked up a bag of groceries Mara hadn't noticed before, then gestured for her to walk with them. It's not far. Can you walk okay? Mara stood up, her legs screaming in protest after sitting for so long in the cold. She wobbled, and Cole was immediately there, his hand under her elbow, steadying her without being intrusive. I've got you, he said simply. And somehow, improbably, she believed him. They walked through the snow-quiet streets, the children chattering about their day. Something about a school play, an argument about who got to be line leader, excitement about seeing their dad's office downtown. Normal things, family things, the kind of mundane, beautiful details that made up a life. Mara listened in silence, wrapped in Cole's coat that smelled like cedar and something else, something clean and masculine and safe. She put one foot in front of the other, following this strange family through the snow, and tried not to think about how insane this was. 4 blocks turned out to be exactly 4 blocks. Cole apparently believed in accurate measurements. They stopped in front of a 2-story craftsman-style house with warm light glowing in the windows and a slightly crooked wreath on the door. Home sweet home, Cole said, fishing keys from his pocket. It's not fancy, but it's warm. He wasn't lying about the warm part. The moment they stepped inside, heat enveloped Mara like a blanket. She stood in the entryway, dripping snow on their welcome mat, and felt something dangerous rising in her throat, a sob she couldn't afford to let out. Shoes off, Nora announced, already kicking off her boots. House rule. Coats on the hooks, Jacob added, pointing to a row of hooks that held a rainbow of winter gear. Finn was already running deeper into the house, yelling something about getting the good mugs for hot chocolate. Cole closed the door behind them, shutting out the cold and the dark. In the light of the hallway, Mara could see him more clearly, late 30s like she'd thought, with dark hair that was starting to gray at the temples and eyes that were some shade between brown and amber. Tired eyes, kind eyes, sad eyes. Let me take that, he said gently, reaching for his coat. Mara handed it over reluctantly, immediately missing its warmth. She stood there in her thin dress, acutely aware of how she must look. Mascara streaked, bedraggled, broken. The bathroom's just here, Cole said, pointing to a door off the hallway. There should be clean towels in the cabinet. Take your time, warm up. I'll find you something else to wear. My sister leaves clothes here sometimes. I don't want to impose, Mara started. You're not imposing, Cole said firmly. You're accepting help. There's a difference. Before she could respond, all 3 children appeared, faces flushed with excitement and what looked like marshmallows in their hands. We're making hot chocolate, Nora announced. With extra marshmallows, Finn added, because you look like you need extra marshmallows. That's not... Jacob started to correct him, then stopped. Actually, yeah, she does look like she needs extra marshmallows. Mara felt that sob rising again. These children, with their simple kindness, their uncomplicated acceptance, they were breaking her heart in the best and worst way possible. Thank you, she managed. All of you, Thank you. Cole ushered the children toward the kitchen. Give her some space, guys. She's had a hard day. The worst day, Finn said with the certainty of someone who'd been alive for 5 whole years. Like when Mommy died, that was a worse day too. Finn, Jacob said quietly. What? It's true. Cole's expression flickered. Pain, quickly masked. It's okay, Jacob. He's not wrong. He looked back at Mara. The bathroom's all yours. Take your time. Mara escaped into the bathroom and closed the door, leaning against it as her legs finally gave out. She slid down to sit on the floor, Cole's coat still wrapped around her, and let herself shake. The bathroom was lived in. Toothbrushes in different colors, a bath toy shaped like a whale in the tub, a step stool for the smaller children to reach the sink. Evidence of life. Evidence of family. Evidence of everything she'd thought she'd had and lost. After a few minutes, she pulled herself together enough to stand and look in the mirror. She looked like hell. No. She looked like she'd been dragged through hell, spat back out, and then snowed on for good measure. There was makeup in the cabinet, expensive stuff, barely used. The sister, probably. Mara cleaned her face with tissue and water, washing away the evidence of tears and snow. Underneath, she looked pale and hollow-eyed. but at least she looked human again. A knock on the door made her jump. "It's just me," Cole's voice came through. "I've got some clothes for you. I'll leave them outside the door." "Thank you," she called back. She waited until she heard his footsteps retreat, then opened the door a crack. A neat pile of clothing sat on the floor. Sweatpants, a soft sweater, thick socks, even a sports bra still in its package. All of it looked new, or nearly so. Mara changed quickly, grateful for the warmth and coverage. The clothes were slightly big. Cole's sister must be taller than her, but they were clean and soft and infinitely better than her thin dress. She emerged from the bathroom feeling almost human again, following the sound of voices and laughter to the kitchen. It was a disaster zone in the best possible way. Marshmallows covered the counter. Cocoa powder had somehow migrated to Finn's nose. Nora was stirring a pot on the stove with intense concentration while Jacob supervised, and Cole was wiping up a spill with the resignation of someone who'd cleaned up 1,000 spills before. They all looked up when she entered. "You look better," Nora announced. "Less like a frozen zombie." "Nora," Cole said, exasperated. "What? She did look like a frozen zombie before. Now she just looks like a regular person." "I did look like a frozen zombie," Mara agreed, surprising herself with a small smile. "Thank you for the clothes." "My sister Rachel's," Cole confirmed. "She's always leaving stuff here. Says my house is her second closet." "The hot chocolate's almost ready," Finn announced. "I put in extra marshmallows, like I said." "I can see that," Mara said, eyeing the pot that appeared to be more marshmallow than chocolate. They settled at the kitchen table, a large wooden thing scarred with the evidence of homework and art projects and life. Cole served the hot chocolate in mismatched mugs, and the children immediately started comparing whose marshmallow pile was biggest. Mara wrapped her hands around her mug, letting the heat seep into her fingers. She took a sip and had to admit, it was good, really good, rich and creamy and exactly what she needed. "So," Cole said, settling into his own chair with a casualness that felt deliberate, "do you want to talk about what happened, or would you prefer we just not ask?" The children fell quiet, watching her with those two observant eyes that children have. Mara considered lying, considered deflecting. But these people had taken her in, fed her, clothed her. They deserved something resembling honesty. "I got divorced tonight," she said quietly. "Well, not officially divorced, but served papers. Asked to leave." "That's horrible," Nora said with feeling. "Did you do something bad?" "Nora," both older boys said in unison. "I'm just asking." "It's okay," Mara said. She looked at her hot chocolate, watching marshmallows slowly dissolve. "I couldn't give him children. He decided that made me not worth keeping." The silence that followed was heavy. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard," Jacob finally said. "And I once heard Finn say that fish were just wet birds." "They kind of are," Finn protested. "Your ex-husband sounds like a jerk," Nora said matter-of-factly. "A big, stupid jerk." "Nora, language," Cole said automatically, but there was no heat in it. "Well, he does. Who kicks somebody out in the snow? That's mean. That's really, really mean." "It is mean," Cole agreed quietly, looking at Mara with something she couldn't quite name in his eyes. "I'm sorry that happened to you. Nobody deserves that." "He said I was defective," Mara heard herself say, and then wondered why she was telling these strangers her deepest shame. "Broken. Useless." Finn climbed down from his chair and walked over to her, standing right next to her elbow. He put his small hand on her arm. "You're not broken," he said seriously. "Broken things don't cry. They just stay broken. You're sad. That's different. Out of the mouths of babes." Mara felt tears threatening again and blinked them back furiously. "Finn's right," Jacob said. "And having kids isn't the only important thing in the world. Mom always said the best things about people were—" "What were they, Dad?" "Kindness," Cole supplied softly. "Courage. How you treat others when nobody's watching." "Yeah, that," Jacob said. "So if your husband only cared about having kids and not about those things, then he's the one who's broken, not you." The logic was simplistic, childlike, but somehow more healing than anything an adult might have said. "Thank you," Mara whispered. "All of you." They finished their hot chocolate with the conversation drifting to easier topics. School, the upcoming Christmas break, whether dinosaurs could survive in Minnesota winter. Finn was convinced they could if they wore enough scarves. Through it all, Mara felt something unknotting in her chest. Not healing, she was too raw for that, but loosening. Just a little. When Finn started yawning, Cole announced bedtime. "But it's not even late," Nora protested. "It's 9:30, Cole countered. "That's definitely late for school nights." "But we have a guest." "And our guest will still be here in the morning. Come on, brush teeth, into pajamas. You know the drill." The children scattered, grumbling but compliant in the way of kids who actually had good routines. Cole started collecting mugs and loading them into the dishwasher. "You don't have to do that," Mara said, standing up to help. "Neither do you," Cole replied. "You've had a hard day. You should rest." "I've been sitting all evening." "Then help if you want to, but you're under no obligation." They worked in companionable silence, cleaning up the marshmallow massacre and wiping down counters. It felt strange and domestic and oddly comfortable. "You're good with them," Mara said finally. "You're kids. You're a good father." Cole paused, his hands in soapy water. "I try. It hasn't been easy since their mom died, but we manage." "How long ago?" 2 years. Car accident." He said it simply, but she could hear the weight behind the words. She was on her way home from a work conference. Black ice, gone in an instant. "I'm so sorry." "Me too." He rinsed the last mug and set it in the drainer. "But we're still here, still living, still figuring it out day by day." "They're lucky to have you." Cole turned to look at her then. Really look at her. "You know what I see when I look at you?" Mara wasn't sure she wanted to know, but she waited. "I see someone who's been told she's worthless because of something she can't control. I see someone who's internalized that lie, and I see someone who's stronger than she thinks she is because she's still here, still fighting, even when it would be easier to give up." The tears came then, and Mara couldn't stop them. They rolled down her cheeks in hot tracks, carrying with them all the pain and fear and shame she'd been holding back. Cole handed her a dish towel, waited patiently while she sobbed into it. "Sorry," she gasped. "I'm sorry. I don't apologize for feeling," Cole said gently. "You've earned these tears. Let them out." So she did. She stood in this stranger's kitchen and cried for her failed marriage, her lost home, her wounded heart, her body that had betrayed her, and the loneliness that had brought her to a bus shelter in the snow. When the tears finally slowed, Cole spoke again. "The guest room's upstairs, second door on the right. There's a lock on the inside. Use it if it makes you feel safer. Clean sheets, extra blankets in the closet. Bathroom's across the hall." "Cole, We'll figure out tomorrow when tomorrow comes," he interrupted gently. "For tonight, you're safe. You're warm. You're here. That's enough." Mara nodded, not trusting her voice. "And Mara?" He waited until she looked at him. "You're not defective. You're not broken. You're not useless. You're a person who deserved better than what you got. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you otherwise." The guest room was small but cozy, with a double bed covered in a handmade quilt and walls painted a soft sage green. Mara locked the door as suggested, then sat on the edge of the bed, still processing everything that had happened. 6 hours ago, she'd been thrown out of her home. 4 hours ago, she'd been freezing in a bus shelter, contemplating whether it would be easier to just stop fighting. 2 hours ago, she'd been found by a widower and 3 children who'd offered her something she'd thought she'd never have again: kindness without conditions. She lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and felt exhaustion pulling at her like an undertow. Her body ached, her heart ached, everything ached. But she was warm, she was safe. And tomorrow? Well, tomorrow she'd have to figure out what came next. She'd have to deal with the divorce, find a place to stay, rebuild her life from rubble. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, wrapped in borrowed clothes and unexpected compassion, Mara Ellison finally let herself sleep. And for the first time in a very long time, she dreamed of something other than failure. Morning light filtered through the sage-green curtains, soft and hesitant, like it wasn't sure it was welcome. Mara woke slowly, confusion pulling at her consciousness, before memory crashed in like a wave. The divorce papers, the snow, the bus shelter, Cole and his children. She sat up quickly, heart pounding, and looked around the unfamiliar room. For one disorienting moment, she thought maybe she'd dreamed it all, that she'd wake up in her own bed, in her own house, and the nightmare would be over. But no, the handmade quilt was real. The borrowed clothes were real. The sound of children's voices drifting up from downstairs was very, very real. The digital clock on the nightstand read 7:23 a.m. She'd slept for almost 9 hours straight, which seemed impossible given how her mind had been racing when she'd finally laid down. Exhaustion, apparently, trumped anxiety. Mara stood, her body protesting with aches that reminded her of yesterday's cold and yesterday's tears. She padded to the window and pulled back the curtain. Snow covered everything outside, the yard, the street, parked cars, transforming the neighborhood into something from a greeting card. Beautiful and pristine and completely disconnected from the chaos of her life. A knock at the door made her jump. "Mara, you awake?" It was Nora's voice, pitched to something approximating a whisper, but still carrying clearly through the wood. "I'm awake," Mara called back. "Daddy made pancakes and bacon, and he said I could come get you, but I had to knock first and not just barge in because that's rude." Despite everything, Mara smiled. "Tell him I'll be down in a few minutes." "Okay." The sound of small feet thundering downstairs followed. Mara used the bathroom across the hall, splashing water on her face and trying to make herself presentable. Her reflection still looked haunted, dark circles under her eyes, hair that desperately needed washing, but at least she looked alive. That was something. When she made her way downstairs, following the smell of coffee and bacon, she found controlled chaos in the kitchen. Cole stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Jacob was setting the table while simultaneously reading from what looked like a history textbook propped against a cereal box. Nora was pouring orange juice with intense concentration, tongue sticking out slightly, and Finn was building what appeared to be a fort out of placemats and salt shakers. "Finn, that's not—" Cole started, then sighed. "You know what? Fine. Build your fort. Just don't knock over the juice." "I won't," Finn promised, adding a pepper grinder to his architectural masterpiece. Cole looked up and saw Mara hovering in the doorway. His face softened into a smile that made something flutter unexpectedly in her chest. "Morning. Coffee?" "Please," Mara said, perhaps a bit too fervently. "Mugs are in the cabinet above the coffee maker. Help yourself. Cream's in the fridge, sugar's on the counter." Mara poured herself a cup, adding cream until it was the color of caramel, and took her first sip. It was good, strong and hot, and exactly what she needed. She leaned against the counter, cradling the mug, watching this family move around each other with the choreography of long practice. "Did you sleep okay?" Cole asked, sliding a fresh pancake onto a growing stack. "Better than I expected," Mara admitted. "Thank you again for—" "If you thank me one more time, I'm taking back the pancakes," Cole interrupted, but he was smiling. "You're here. You needed help. We helped. End of story." "But, nope. No buts. Sit down. Eat. Then we can talk about what comes next." Nora patted the chair next to her. "Sit here. I'll share my special syrup. It's the good kind with real maple, not the fake stuff Finn likes." "The fake stuff tastes better?" Finn argued from inside his placemat fort. "It does not." "Does too." "Children," Cole said mildly. "Volume check." Both kids immediately lowered their voices, though the argument continued in animated whispers. Mara sat where indicated, and within minutes had a plate piled high with pancakes and bacon in front of her. She couldn't remember the last time someone had cooked for her. Richard certainly hadn't. He'd considered cooking women's work, even though Mara had worked full-time too. The first bite of pancake was fluffy and perfect, with just a hint of vanilla. She made an involuntary sound of appreciation. "Daddy's pancakes are the best," Nora said proudly. "He puts secret ingredients in them." "The secret ingredient is love," Finn announced from his fort. "The secret ingredient is vanilla and a pinch of cinnamon," Cole corrected, bringing his own plate to the table. "But love works too." They ate together, the conversation flowing around Mara like a river around a stone. Jacob talked about a test he had today in social studies. Nora complained about a boy in her class who kept putting glue on her chair. Finn described, in elaborate detail, a dream he'd had about dinosaurs that could fly and also shoot lasers from their eyes. It was so normal, so mundane, so utterly foreign to Mara, who'd spent the last 2 years eating dinner alone while Richard worked late or sat across from him in silence while he scrolled through his phone. After breakfast, the morning routine kicked into high gear. Backpacks were located, homework was double-checked, teeth were brushed with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Cole moved through it all with calm efficiency, signing a permission slip here, finding a missing shoe there, settling a dispute about whose turn it was to sit by the window on the bus. Mara watched from the kitchen, feeling useless and in the way. She should leave. These people had given her shelter for the night, fed her breakfast. She shouldn't overstay her welcome. But where would she go? The question sat in her stomach like a stone. "Okay, troops, line up," Cole called. "Inspection time." The 3 children stood in a row by the front door while Cole checked that they had everything they needed: lunchboxes, homework, winter gear. It was clearly a well-established ritual. "Mara," Finn called, waving enthusiastically. "Bye. Are you going to be here when we get home?" The question hung in the air. All 3 children looked at her with hopeful faces. Cole's expression was carefully neutral, but she could see the question in his eyes, too. "I don't know," Mara said honestly. "I need to figure some things out." "You should stay," Nora said firmly. "We have lots of room, and you're nice, and you didn't even get mad when Finn spilled orange juice on your foot." Mara looked down, surprised. She hadn't even noticed the small damp spot on her borrowed sock. "That's very kind of you," she started, "but no pressure," Cole cut in gently. "You're welcome to stay while you figure things out, but you're also free to go if that's what you need. We'll support whatever you decide." The school bus honked outside. "That's us!" Jacob grabbed his backpack. "Come on, guys, we're going to be late." There was a flurry of hugs and kisses for Cole, and then, to Mara's surprise, Nora hugged her too, quick and fierce. "I hope you stay," she whispered, then ran out the door before Mara could respond. And then it was just the 2 of them in the suddenly quiet house. Cole began clearing breakfast dishes, moving with the same easy efficiency he brought to everything. Mara stood, joining him automatically. "You don't have to clean up," Cole said. "You keep saying that. I keep ignoring you." Mara carried plates to the sink. "I'm not good at sitting idle." They worked in silence for a few minutes, the rhythm of washing and drying oddly soothing. "So," Cole said finally, "what's your plan?" "I don't have one," Mara admitted. "I need to find a place to stay, obviously. Get my things from the house, assuming Richard hasn't thrown everything away. File a response to the divorce papers. Find a job, maybe, or I don't know." She set down the dish she'd been drying, feeling overwhelmed just listing it all. "I don't know where to start." "Start with coffee and a deep breath," Cole suggested. "Then we make a list. Break it down into manageable pieces." "We?" "If you want help. If not, that's fine too. But I've got a few hours before I need to be at the office, and I'm pretty good with logistics." Mara studied him. This man who'd taken in a stranger, fed her, clothed her, and was now offering to help organize her catastrophically derailed life. "Why are you doing this?" Cole was quiet for a moment, considering. "Honestly, because someone helped me once when I needed it. After Sarah, my wife, died, I was a wreck. 3 kids, a full-time job, and I couldn't figure out how to tie my own shoes some days. Sarah's sister moved in for 6 months. Just took over. Made sure the kids got to school, that we all ate something other than takeout, that I went to therapy instead of just drowning in work." He dried his hands on a dish towel, looking out the window at the snow-covered yard. She didn't have to do that. She had her own life, her own problems. But she showed up anyway. And when I tried to thank her, she said, "Pay it forward someday." So, that's what I'm doing. "I'm not your responsibility," Mara said quietly. "No, you're not. But you're a person who needs help, and I'm a person who can provide it. Seems pretty straightforward to me." They moved to the living room, settling on a worn but comfortable couch with fresh cups of coffee. Cole found a notepad and pen. "Okay," he said, "let's break this down. First priority, where are you sleeping tonight?" "I can't stay here," Mara protested. "You've already done too much." "Can't or don't want to?" It's not appropriate. You're a single man. I'm a woman going through a divorce. People will talk. Cole raised an eyebrow. Let them talk. I've got 3 kids as chaperones and a guest room with a lock. Anyone who has a problem with me helping someone in need can take it up with my conscience. He tapped the notepad. So, tonight, here or somewhere else. Mara bit her lip, torn between pride and practicality. I have no money. Richard kept everything in his name, the accounts, the credit cards, everything. I couldn't pay you rent if I wanted to. Did I ask for rent? No, but then that's settled. You stay here, at least for now, while you get your feet under you. Next item, your belongings. What do you need from the house? Everything. My clothes, my documents, my laptop, it's all there. Is Richard likely to be cooperative about letting you get them? Mara laughed bitterly. Not even slightly. Then we do it legally. You have a right to your personal property. I can call my lawyer friend, get some advice on how to proceed. I can't afford a lawyer. Good thing I didn't say you needed to hire one. I said I'd get advice. There's a difference. Cole was writing things down now, his handwriting neat and precise. What about money? Do you have access to any accounts at all? No, like I said, everything was in Richard's name. That's actually illegal in most cases. Any money earned during the marriage is marital property. You're entitled to half. He'll fight me on it. Probably, but that doesn't change the law. Cole looked up from his notes. You're going to need a lawyer eventually, for the divorce, if nothing else. I know someone does a lot of pro bono work, sliding scale fees. Want me to make an introduction? Mara felt tears threatening again. Why are you being so nice to me? Why wouldn't I be? Cole set down the pen, his expression earnest. Mara, you got dealt a terrible hand. Someone who was supposed to love you treated you like you were disposable. That's not a reflection on your worth, it's a reflection on his character. And yeah, you're in a tough spot now, but tough spots are temporary. We'll get through this. She repeated softly. If you want the help. If not, I'll back off. But I'm offering. Mara looked at this man, this kind, patient, unexpectedly generous man, and felt something shift inside her. Not attraction exactly, though he was attractive in an understated way. Something deeper than that. Recognition, maybe. The sense that here was someone who saw her as a person rather than a failure. Okay, she said. Okay, I accept your help, and I'll stay, at least for a little while, until I can figure something else out. Good. Cole went back to his list. Now, employment. What did you do before? I was a teacher. Elementary school, 3rd grade. But I quit 3 years ago when Richard said it would be better for me to focus on getting pregnant. She heard the bitterness in her own voice. Turns out that was a waste of time on multiple fronts. You could teach again. Not without updating my certification, and that takes time and money I don't have. What about substitute teaching? Less formal requirements? More flexibility? Mara considered. Maybe. I'd need to look into it. I'll add it to the list. Cole wrote something down. What else can you do? I don't know. Cook, clean, organize things? Nothing very marketable. All of those are marketable. Personal chef, house cleaner, professional organizer. People pay good money for those services. I'm not qualified to. Qualification is just a fancy word for experience, and you've got plenty of that. Don't sell yourself short. They continued like that for the next hour, Cole methodically breaking down her overwhelming situation into actionable steps. Call the lawyer, file for emergency access to marital funds, register with substitute teaching agencies, update her resume, retrieve her documents from the house. By the time they finished, Mara had a 2-page list, and for the first time since Richard had handed her those papers, something that felt almost like hope. Thank you, she said quietly. I mean it. I don't know how I would have... She trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. You would have figured it out, Cole said with certainty. People are more resilient than they think, but there's no shame in accepting help while you do. He glanced at his watch and grimaced. I need to get to the office. I've got a meeting at 11 I can't miss. Will you be okay here? I'll be fine, Mara assured him. I can start making some of these calls. Maybe look up substitute teaching requirements online. Computers in the den, Password is Sarah 2019. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. And Mara? He paused at the door, coat half on. You're not imposing. You're not a burden. You're a person going through a hard time, and this house has room for hard times. Okay? Okay, she whispered. After Cole left, the house felt enormous and quiet. Mara wandered through it slowly, not snooping exactly, but observing. Photos lined the hallway, Cole and a beautiful woman with warm eyes and curly hair, clearly Sarah. The kids at various ages, family vacations, birthday parties, ordinary moments made precious by loss. The den was cluttered with the detritus of life. Homework papers, library books, a half-finished Lego project. Mara booted up the computer and spent the next several hours researching substitute teaching requirements, updating her resume, and sending tentative emails to agencies. It was tedious work, made harder by the constant voice in her head telling her she was worthless, that no one would hire her, that Richard had been right about her being defective. But she pushed through it, fueled by coffee and stubborn determination not to prove him right. Around 1, her stomach growled, reminding her she'd only eaten breakfast. She ventured into the kitchen and found a note on the counter in Cole's neat handwriting. Help yourself to anything. Leftovers in fridge. Kids get home at 3:30. I'll be back by 6. You're doing great. See. The casual encouragement brought unexpected tears to her eyes. When was the last time someone had told her she was doing great? When was the last time someone had noticed her efforts at all? She made herself a sandwich, ate it standing at the counter, and went back to her job search. At 3:30 exactly, the front door burst open with the force of a small hurricane. We're home, Finn announced unnecessarily. Mara emerged from the den to find all 3 children shedding winter gear in the entryway with the practiced chaos of routine. You're still here! Nora's face lit up. I told Jacob you would be, but he said maybe you left. I didn't think she'd leave, Jacob defended. I just said she might have things to do. I'm still here, Mara confirmed. How was school? Boring, Nora said, except I got an A on my spelling test. I got to be line leader, Finn added, and we had pizza for lunch. Jacob was quieter, hanging up his coat with careful precision. It was fine. Something in his tone caught Mara's attention, but before she could ask, Finn was tugging on her hand. Can we have a snack? Daddy usually makes us snacks when we get home. What kind of snacks? Apple slices with peanut butter, Nora said, or cheese and crackers, or sometimes cookies if we're really good. Were you really good? We're always really good, Finn said with absolute certainty. Mara found herself smiling. Okay, let's see what we can find. She cut up apples, arranged crackers and cheese on a plate, and poured milk into 3 cups. The children settled at the kitchen table, backpacks dumped nearby, and dove into their snacks with enthusiasm. Do you have homework? Mara asked. Nora nodded, mouth full of apple. Jacob pulled out his history textbook without being asked. Finn looked shifty. Finn? Mara prompted. Maybe, he said hopefully. That's not an answer. Okay, yes, but it's just a worksheet, and it's really easy, and I can do it super fast. Then you can do it right now, while Jacob and Nora are doing theirs. Finn sighed dramatically but pulled out his backpack. Mara found herself settling into a chair, helping Finn sound out words on his phonics worksheet while keeping an eye on the other 2. It felt natural, comfortable, like slipping into an old coat that still fit perfectly. This was what she'd wanted, what she'd dreamed of during all those failed fertility treatments and devastating negative pregnancy tests. Not the pregnancy itself, really, but this, the after-school chaos, the homework help, the ordinary magic of children growing and learning and needing her. You're good at this, Jacob said quietly, looking up from his textbook. At what? Helping, teaching. You seem like you've done it before. I was a teacher, Mara said. 3rd grade, actually. Why'd you stop? How to explain that to a 10-year-old? I thought I was going to do something else. It didn't work out the way I planned. Jacob considered this with a seriousness beyond his years. That happens sometimes. Dad says life is what happens when you're making other plans. Your dad is very wise. He tries. Jacob went back to his reading, but Mara could see the small smile on his face. They worked in companionable near silence for the next hour. broken only by occasional questions and Finn's running commentary on everything he was thinking. When the homework was done, Nora asked if they could watch TV, and Mara, unsure of the house rules, suggested they wait for their dad to get home. "He lets us watch for 30 minutes after homework," Nora informed her. "Educational shows only on weekdays, except Fridays we can watch whatever." "Is it Friday?" "No," Nora admitted sadly. "It's Tuesday." "Then educational shows it is." Mara got them settled in front of a nature documentary about sea turtles and retreated to the kitchen to figure out dinner. Cole had said he'd be home by 6. It was almost 5 now. She probably shouldn't cook in someone else's kitchen without permission, but she also didn't want Cole coming home to hungry children after a long day at work. She checked the refrigerator, finding the makings of spaghetti and salad. Simple, kid-friendly, hard to mess up. She was just starting to boil water when her phone buzzed, except she didn't have her phone. Richard had it, along with everything else. The buzzing was coming from the landline, an actual house phone that Mara hadn't seen anyone use. She picked it up hesitantly. "Hello? Mara?" Cole's voice. "Good. I was hoping you'd answer. Listen, I'm running about 30 minutes late. Client meeting went long. Are the kids home?" "They are. We did homework and they're watching..." She checked the TV. "Something about sea turtles." "Perfect. Thank you for handling that." She could hear the relief in his voice. "I'll be home as soon as I can." "I started making dinner," Mara blurted out. "I hope that's okay. Just spaghetti. I can stop if you'd rather." "You're making dinner?" Cole sounded surprised. "You don't have to do that." "I wanted to help, to contribute something." There was a pause. "Mara, you don't owe me anything." "I know, but I want to help anyway. Is that okay?" Another pause, longer this time. "Yeah," Cole said finally, his voice soft. "Yeah, that's more than okay. Thank you." After they hung up, Mara returned to cooking with unexpected lightness in her chest. It felt good to do something useful, something normal. She cooked the pasta, made a simple marinara sauce from canned tomatoes and herbs she found in the cabinet, threw together a salad. When Cole walked in at 6:20, he stopped in the kitchen doorway, staring at the table set for 4. No, 5, she'd included herself, and the pot of spaghetti steaming on the stove. "Wow," he said. "It's just spaghetti," Mara said, suddenly self-conscious. "Nothing fancy. It's dinner. I didn't have to cook after a 12-hour day. That's everything." He set down his briefcase and loosened his tie. "Thank you. Seriously." The children thundered in, drawn by the smell of food and the sound of their father's voice. Dinner was a lively affair, everyone talking over each other, sharing stories from their day. Mara stayed quiet mostly, listening, soaking in the warmth of family dynamics. After dinner, the evening routine began. Baths for the younger two, showers for Jacob, reading time, negotiations about bedtime. Mara helped where she could, reading to Finn from a book about dinosaurs, his current obsession, helping Nora detangle her hair, listening to Jacob practice his clarinet, badly, but with enthusiasm. By the time all 3 children were in bed, it was almost 9 o'clock. Mara found Cole in the living room, collapsed on the couch with his tie off and his sleeves rolled up, looking exhausted. "Is it always like this?" she asked, settling into the armchair. "Pretty much. Some days are easier. Some days Finn decides he's a dinosaur and won't answer to his human name for 6 hours. Cole smiled tiredly. "But yeah, this is life with 3 kids. You make it look easy." "It's not. But you do it anyway because they're worth it." He looked at her thoughtfully. "You were really good with them today. Natural." "I enjoyed it," Mara admitted. "More than I expected to, honestly. It felt right." "They liked having you here too. Nora told me at bedtime that you're her new favorite person. She barely knows me. Kids are good judges of character. They know kindness when they see it." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the house settling around them with creaks and sighs. "I made some progress today," Mara said finally. "On the job front. I registered with 2 substitute teaching agencies. They said they'd review my application and get back to me within a week." "That's great," Cole said. "Really great. And I looked into legal aid services. There's a clinic that does free consultations on Thursdays. I thought maybe I could..." I'll drive you, Cole interrupted. What time? You don't have to. Mara. He leaned forward, his expression serious. I know you're independent. I know you're capable, but you're also going through something impossible, and accepting help doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart. So please, let me help where I can. Mara felt that dangerous warmth in her chest again. Okay, she whispered. Thank you. You're welcome. Cole stood, stretching. I should get to bed. Early meeting tomorrow. You need anything before I head up? No, I'm good. Okay. Good night, Mara. Good night, Cole. She stayed downstairs for a while after he left, sitting in the quiet house, processing the strangeness of her new reality. 2 days ago, her entire life had been Richard and their house, and the desperate hope of pregnancy. Now she was living with a widower and his 3 children, cooking dinner in a stranger's kitchen, and feeling more at home than she had in years. It was terrifying and confusing and completely unexpected. But as she climbed the stairs to her borrowed room, locked the door out of habit, and slipped under the handmade quilt, Mara felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not happiness, exactly. Not yet. But the possibility of it. The first tiny seed of hope that maybe, just maybe, her story wasn't over. Maybe it was just beginning. The days began to blur together in a way that was both disorienting and comforting. Mara fell into the rhythm of Cole's household so naturally that by the end of the first week, she had to remind herself this wasn't actually her life. She was just borrowing it temporarily, a guest who'd overstayed her welcome, except that Cole kept insisting she hadn't. She woke each morning to the sound of children arguing about bathroom time. She helped pack lunches, signed permission slips when Cole was running late, mediated disputes about whose turn it was to choose the breakfast cereal. After the school bus took the kids away, she spent her mornings job hunting, making calls, slowly rebuilding the infrastructure of her existence. In the afternoons, she was there when the children came home, helping with homework and listening to their stories about playground politics and cafeteria drama. Evenings, she cooked dinner. It started as a way to contribute, to earn her keep, but it became something more, something she looked forward to. There was a meditative quality to chopping vegetables, seasoning meat, creating something nourishing from raw ingredients. And the way Cole's face would light up when he came home to find dinner ready, that became addictive in a way that scared her a little. You don't have to do this every night, he told her on Friday evening, watching her stir risotto with the focused attention it demanded. I like doing it, Mara said honestly. It makes me feel useful. You are useful, even without cooking. I know, but I still like it. Cole leaned against the counter, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up in that way that had become familiar. My sister thinks I'm taking advantage of you. Mara looked up sharply. What? Rachel. I told her about you staying here. She called me yesterday and gave me an earful about how inappropriate it is, how people will talk, how I'm putting you in an awkward position. What did you tell her? That you're an adult capable of making your own decisions, and that she should mind her own business. He smiled slightly. She didn't take that well. She's coming over tomorrow to assess the situation. Fair warning. Mara felt her stomach drop. Maybe I should find somewhere else to stay. I don't want to cause problems with your family. You're not causing problems. Rachel's causing problems by being overprotective and judgmental. Big difference. Cole reached over and stole a piece of the Parmesan she'd been grating. Besides, the kids would riot if you left. Finn's convinced you're Mary Poppins reincarnated. I'm not Mary Poppins. You did help him fly a kite last weekend. That was one time, and it crashed into a tree. Still counts. Cole's expression turned more serious. But really, Mara, if you want to stay, stay. If you want to go, go. But don't leave because you're worried about what my sister thinks. She'll get over it. Mara turned back to her risotto, stirring slowly, thinking. I got a call back from one of the substitute teaching agencies today. Yeah? That's great. They want me to start next Monday. 3 days a week to begin with, possibly more depending on demand. That's fantastic. Cole's enthusiasm was genuine. See, I told you they'd want you. It's not much money, not enough to afford my own place, not in this city. So stay here until you can afford your own place. Problem solved. Cole, I'm serious. This house has 4 bedrooms, 3 kids, 1 me, 1 you. The math works. And honestly, he paused, choosing his words carefully. It's been nice, having another adult around, someone to talk to after the kids are in bed. Someone who understands that sometimes you need to hide in the pantry and eat cookies straight from the package because the day was too long. You do that? Everyone does that. Don't judge me. Mara laughed despite herself. I'm not judging. I found your hiding spot on day 3. Those Milano cookies are really good. I knew someone was stealing them. I thought it was Jacob. Nope. All me. They grinned at each other, and something warm and dangerous flickered between them. Mara looked away first, suddenly very focused on her risotto. The next morning, Rachel arrived at 10 o'clock sharp, sweeping into the house like a well-dressed storm. She was tall and polished, with Cole's same dark hair cut into a sleek bob, and eyes that assessed everything with laser precision. "So you're Mara," she said, extending a hand. Her handshake was firm enough to hurt. "I am. It's nice to meet you." "We'll see about that." Rachel turned to Cole, who was attempting to look innocent while Finn used him as a jungle gym. "Can we talk? Privately?" "Anything you want to say, you can say in front of Mara." "Fine." Rachel crossed her arms. "Cole, what are you thinking? You have a strange woman living in your house, cooking your meals, watching your children." "I'm standing right here," Mara said quietly. Rachel had the grace to look slightly abashed. "No offense. Lots taken, but continue." "Look, I'm sure you're very nice, but this situation is inappropriate. Cole's a single father. You're going through a divorce. Do you have any idea how this looks?" "Like he's helping someone who needed help?" Mara suggested. "Like he's shacking up with the first woman who batted her eyes at him since Sarah died." The room went very quiet. Cole carefully extracted himself from Finn's grip and stood up, his expression harder than Mara had ever seen it. "That's enough, Rachel. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." "No, you're saying what you're thinking, and you're out of line." "Am I?" "Because from where I'm standing, Aunt Rachel!" Nora appeared from the stairs, face lighting up. "You're here. Did you come to see Mara? She's been teaching me how to braid hair. Look!" She spun around, showing off a slightly lopsided French braid. Rachel's expression softened immediately. "That's beautiful, sweetie." "Mara did it. She knows like 100 different braids, and she makes really good pancakes. And she doesn't get mad when Finn spills things." "I only spill things sometimes," Finn protested from his position on the couch. Jacob wandered in, nose in a book as usual. "Hi, Aunt Rachel. Did you bring cookies?" "I did not." "Bummer. Mara made cookies yesterday. They had chocolate chips and peanut butter." "They were really good," Nora added. "Can I have more cookies, Mara?" "After lunch," Mara said automatically. "And only if you eat real food first." "That's what Daddy always says too," Finn complained. Rachel watched this exchange with an expression Mara couldn't quite read. Finally, she sighed. "Okay, can I talk to Mara alone for a minute?" Cole looked like he wanted to protest, but Mara nodded. "It's fine." They moved to the kitchen while Cole corralled the kids into the living room. Rachel leaned against the counter, arms still crossed, studying Mara like a specimen under a microscope. "Look," Rachel said finally, "I'm sure you're a perfectly nice person, but I need to know your intentions here." "My intentions?" "With my brother. With his children." Mara felt anger sparking in her chest. "My intentions are to get back on my feet and move on with my life. Cole was kind enough to offer me a place to stay while I do that. That's it." "Is it?" "What are you implying?" Rachel's expression softened slightly. "I'm not trying to be cruel, but Cole's been through hell. Losing Sarah nearly destroyed him. For 6 months after she died, he could barely function. If it weren't for those kids, I don't think he would have made it. And now, finally, he's starting to seem like himself again. I don't want to see him hurt. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Maybe not intentionally, but you're vulnerable right now. Going through a divorce, no support system, no resources. It would be very easy to develop feelings for the first person who showed you kindness. And if those feelings aren't reciprocated, or if they are and it all blows up, those kids are the ones who'll suffer." Mara sat down slowly, Rachel's words hitting harder than she wanted to admit. "You think I'm using him?" Are you? No. Mara met Rachel's eyes squarely. I'm grateful for his help. I care about those children, but I'm not trying to replace Sarah. I'm not trying to trap Cole into anything. I'm just trying to survive right now, and he's giving me the space to do that. That's all this is. Rachel studied her for a long moment. Do you have feelings for him? The question was direct, unavoidable. Mara thought about Cole's smile when he came home to cooked dinner, the way he listened when she talked, really listened, like her words mattered, the warmth in his eyes when he praised her efforts with the kids, the flutter in her chest when their hands accidentally touched passing dishes at dinner. It doesn't matter if I do, Mara said carefully. He's grieving. I'm recovering from a terrible marriage. Neither of us is in a place for anything complicated. We're just two people helping each other get through difficult times. That's a very diplomatic answer. It's an honest one. Rachel sighed again, some of the steel leaving her posture. I want to trust you, but I need you to understand those kids have lost enough. If you're going to be in their lives, you need to be sure. You can't just drift in and out when it's convenient. I understand. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're going to get a job, save some money, and move out. And those kids, especially Nora, are already attached to you. What happens when you leave? It was a fair question, one Mara had been avoiding asking herself. She looked through the doorway at Nora, who was showing Cole her braid again, beaming with pride. At Finn, who'd started calling her Mary as a nickname. At Jacob, who'd shyly asked her to help him with his English essay last night. I don't know, Mara admitted quietly. I don't have all the answers. I'm doing the best I can with a situation I never expected to be in. That's fair. Rachel moved to sit across from her. Look, I'm sorry for coming in hot. I'm protective of my brother and those kids. Occupational hazard of being the big sister. I get it. If someone showed up in my life the way I showed up in Cole's, I'd be suspicious too. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension easing slightly. The kids do seem happy, Rachel said grudgingly. Happier than I've seen them in a while. They're good kids. They are. They're also grieving and vulnerable, which makes them latch on to people quickly. Just be careful with them, please. I will, I promise. Rachel stood, smoothing her skirt. I should go. I've got a showing at 1. She paused at the doorway. For what it's worth, those cookies the kids mentioned, if you're willing to share the recipe, I might be willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. Mara felt a small smile tugging at her lips. I think I can manage that. After Rachel left, Cole found Mara in the kitchen, staring out the window at the snow-covered backyard. I'm sorry about her, he said. She means well, but she can be protective. I know. It's okay. It's not okay. She had no right to interrogate you like that. She's worried about you, about the kids. I respect that. Mara turned to face him. She's right, though. About some things. Say, what things? The kids are getting attached to me. What happens when I leave? When I get my own place and move on? Cole was quiet for a moment. What if you don't? Don't what? Move on. What if you stay? Mara's heart stuttered. Cole, not forever necessarily, just longer. The kids are happy. You seem happy, or at least happier than when you first got here. And He stopped, running a hand through his hair in a gesture she'd learned meant he was frustrated or uncertain. I like having you here. Is that selfish? It's honest. Then honestly, I don't want you to go. Not yet. Not until you're ready, and maybe not even then. The words hung between them, heavy with implications neither of them was quite ready to examine. I like being here too, Mara said softly. More than I should, probably. Why shouldn't you? Because this isn't my life. These aren't my kids. This isn't my home. I'm just borrowing it all temporarily. What if it could be? Cole took a step closer. Your life. Your home. Not temporarily. You don't mean that. Don't I? Mara looked at him, really looked at him, saw the sincerity in his eyes, the hope, the fear, saw a man who'd lost everything rebuilding something new from the rubble, saw someone as broken as she was, trying to put the pieces back together. We barely know each other, she whispered. I know you sing to yourself when you cook. I know you always give the kids the bigger portions and keep the smallest for yourself. I know you cry in the shower because you think we can't hear you, but the pipes carry sound. I know you're brave and kind and stronger than you give yourself credit for. What else do I need to know? Everything. Nothing. I don't know. Mara pressed her hands to her face. This is too fast. Too much. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm pushing. Cole stepped back, giving her space. Forget I said anything. You stay as long as you need to. No expectations, no pressure. I promise. But the words had been said, the possibility had been raised, and neither of them could take it back. The following Monday, Mara started her first day as a substitute teacher at Riverside Elementary. She was nervous to the point of nausea, standing in front of a classroom of 23 second graders who stared at her with the frank curiosity of the very young. Hi, everyone, she said, her voice only shaking a little. My name is Mrs. Ellison, and I'll be your teacher today while Mrs. Patterson is out sick. Who can tell me what you're working on in math? A forest of hands shot up. By lunchtime, Mara remembered why she'd loved teaching. The energy, the questions, the way children's minds worked in delightfully unexpected directions. A little girl named Sophie asked if clouds were made of marshmallows. A boy named Marcus insisted that dinosaurs could definitely survive in Minnesota if they wore enough scarves, and Mara had to hide her smile, thinking of Finn. She came home that afternoon exhausted and exhilarated. The kids were already there, and they pounced on her the moment she walked in. How was it? Nora demanded. Did you have any bad kids? Finn asked with disturbing interest. Did anyone cry? Jacob added. It was good. No, everyone was well behaved. And yes, one kid cried because another kid said his drawing of a horse looked like a potato, but we worked it out. Cole appeared from the kitchen, smiling. Sounds like a successful first day. It was. Mara set down her bag, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. It really was. That night, after the kids were in bed, she and Cole sat in the living room with tea. She'd gotten him addicted to the chamomile blend she preferred over coffee in the evenings. I got an email from the divorce lawyer today, Mara said quietly. The one you recommended. And? She thinks I have a strong case for spousal support. Richard makes 6 figures and I quit my job at his request. She says a judge will likely award me temporary support while the divorce is finalized and possibly permanent support after. That's good news. It is, but it also means facing him in court, sitting across from him while lawyers pick apart our marriage. I don't know if I can do that. Cole set down his tea, turning to face her fully. You can. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about feeling strong. It's about doing hard things even when you're terrified. You've been doing that since the moment we met. Mara thought about the bus shelter, the snow, how close she'd come to just giving up. I was ready to die that night, you know, when you found me. I was so cold and so tired and so convinced that nothing mattered anymore. If you hadn't stopped, but I did stop, and you're here, and you're building a new life. Cole's voice was fierce. Don't let him take anything else from you. Not your confidence, not your sense of worth, and definitely not your future. You deserve better than what he gave you. So do you, Mara said quietly. Sarah's death, that wasn't fair either. No, it wasn't. But I've learned that life doesn't deal in fair, it just deals, and we play the hand we're given as best we can. Is that what we're doing? Playing the hand we're given? I hope we're doing more than that. I hope we're building something better than what we lost. The words felt significant, weighted with meaning that scared Mara as much as it thrilled her. She looked at Cole, his kind eyes, his gentle smile, the way he looked at her like she mattered, and felt something shifting inside her chest. Something that felt dangerously like falling. Cole? She started, not sure what she was going to say. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He glanced at it and frowned. It's my boss. I need to take this. He stepped into the kitchen, and Mara could hear his side of the conversation growing more animated. When he came back 15 minutes later, his expression was complicated. Everything okay? She asked. That depends on your definition of okay. Cole sat down heavily. I've been offered a promotion, senior partner. It's what I've been working toward for 5 years. That's amazing. Congratulations. There's a catch. It requires relocating to New York for 6 months, maybe longer. They're opening a new office there, and they want me to head it up. Mara's heart sank. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Cole rubbed his face. I can't uproot the kids. Not after everything they've been through. Jacob's finally doing well in school. Nora has friends. Finn's in a good routine. And even if I wanted to move them, what would I do with them during the day? My job there would be even more demanding than it is here. When do they need an answer? 2 weeks. They sat in heavy silence, both contemplating what this meant. Cole would turn down the promotion, Mara knew. He'd sacrifice his career advancement for his children without a second thought. That was who he was. But he shouldn't have to make that choice, not when there might be another option. What if we went with you? The words were out of Mara's mouth before she'd fully thought them through. Cole stared at her. What? The kids and me. What if we went to New York? I could watch them during the day, help with school stuff, keep their routines consistent. You could focus on work. They'd still have stability, just in a different city. Mara, I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking, I'm offering. You just started your job here. You're building a new life. I won't let you upend everything for me. What if I want to? Mara leaned forward, warming to the idea now that she'd voiced it. Cole, I don't have anything tying me to Minneapolis. My divorce hearing isn't for another 3 months, and I can handle that from anywhere. The substitute teaching, I can do that in New York too. And the kids... She paused, heart racing. I love those kids. I want to help them. I want to help you. Why? Cole's voice was barely above a whisper. Why would you do this? Because somewhere in the past 3 weeks, this borrowed life had become real. Because she woke up every morning grateful to be here. Because the thought of Cole and his children moving across the country without her felt like losing something precious she'd only just found. Because this feels like home, Mara said simply. More than anywhere I've been in years. Because those kids deserve to have their father succeed. Because you deserve this opportunity. And because maybe... She stopped, afraid to finish the thought. Because maybe what? Cole prompted gently. Because maybe we're better together than apart. The words hung in the air between them, enormous and terrifying and true. Cole reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. His palm was warm, calloused, steady. I need to tell you something, he said. Before you agree to anything, before we make any plans, you need to know. I've fallen in love with you, Mara. The world seemed to stop spinning. Mara stared at him, sure she'd misheard. What? I love you. Not because you help with the kids or cook dinner or make my life easier. I love you because you're brave and kind and funny. Because you sing off-key in the shower. Because you give Finn the biggest cookies even though you think I don't notice. Because you've brought life back into this house, into me, and I can't imagine it without you anymore. Tears were streaming down Mara's face now. Cole, I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. I know you're still healing from Richard, and I'm still grieving Sarah. But I can't not tell you. I can't let you make this decision without knowing how I feel. You love me, Mara repeated, testing the words. I love you, Cole confirmed, but I won't pressure you. You can still say no to New York. You can still leave. You can still just be my roommate who helps with the kids. I'll respect whatever you choose. I just needed you to know the truth. Mara thought about Richard, who'd claimed to love her but threw her away the moment she couldn't give him what he wanted. She thought about the years she'd spent making herself smaller, quieter, less, trying to be worthy of love that was conditional at best. And then she thought about Cole, who'd seen her at her absolute worst and offered her a coat and a home and patience and respect. Who'd never asked for anything in return. Who'd given her space to heal and rebuild and discover who she was outside of being someone's wife. She thought about Finn's gap-toothed smile and Nora's fierce hugs and Jacob's quiet trust. She thought about cooking dinner in this kitchen and helping with homework at this table and falling asleep in this house feeling safe. She thought about possibility, about second chances, about love that wasn't conditional but constant. I love you too, she whispered, and watched Cole's face transform with joy. I think I have for a while now. I was just too scared to admit it. And now? Now I'm still scared. Terrified, actually. But I'm also sure. She squeezed his hand. We'll go to New York. All of us. Together. Cole pulled her into his arms, and Mara let herself be held, let herself believe that maybe, possibly, she was allowed to have this. Allowed to be loved not despite her broken parts, but including them. Thank you, Cole murmured into her hair, for trusting me, for choosing us. Thank you for finding me, Mara replied, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, and the impossible hope of new beginnings, while outside the window, snow began to fall again. But this time, Mara didn't feel cold. This time she felt warm all the way through. The next morning, they told the children over breakfast. Mara had barely slept, her mind spinning with everything that had changed in the span of a few hours. She'd gone from guest to something else entirely, though they hadn't put a label on it yet. All she knew was that when Cole had kissed her goodnight at her bedroom door, a soft, sweet kiss that tasted like chamomile tea and promises, she'd felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Now, watching 3 pairs of eyes stare at them with varying degrees of suspicion and curiosity, Mara felt her courage wavering. So, Cole began, setting down his coffee mug, I got some news from work yesterday. Good news, actually. I've been offered a promotion. That's great, Daddy, Nora said through a mouthful of cereal. Don't talk with your mouth full, Jacob said automatically. There's a catch, Cole continued. The promotion means I'd need to work in New York for about 6 months, maybe longer. The table went silent. Even Finn stopped swinging his legs. New York? Jacob's voice was carefully neutral, but Mara could see the tension in his shoulders. Like, move there? Temporarily? Yes. What about school? Nora asked, her excitement dimming. What about my friends? What about dinosaurs? Finn added, because everything in his world somehow related back to dinosaurs. Do they have dinosaurs in New York? They have museums with dinosaur bones, Mara offered gently. Really big museums. 3 pairs of eyes swiveled to her. Are you coming too? Finn asked. This was the moment. Mara looked at Cole, who gave her an encouraging nod. If you want me to, she said. Your dad and I talked about it, and I could come with you. Help take care of things while he's working. Make sure you get to school, help with homework, all the stuff I do here. Why would you do that? Jacob asked, and there was something sharp in his voice, something that sounded like fear masquerading as skepticism. Because I care about you, Mara said honestly. All of you. And because I want to help your dad. This is a big opportunity for him. But you're not our mom, Jacob said, and the words landed like stones in still water. The table went quiet again. Nora looked like she might cry. Finn's eyes were huge. Cole opened his mouth to intervene, but Mara shook her head slightly. You're right, she said softly. I'm not your mom. I could never replace her, and I wouldn't try to. But I'd like to be someone you can count on, someone who cares about you and wants good things for you. Is that okay? Jacob stared at his plate, jaw tight. What if we don't want to go to New York? Then we don't go, Cole said firmly. This is a family decision. If you kids aren't comfortable with it, I'll turn down the promotion. My job matters, but you matter more. But you want it, Jacob said. The promotion, I can tell. I do, Cole admitted, but not at the cost of your happiness. That's not fair, Jacob said, his voice cracking. Now, if we say no, you don't get what you want, and it's our fault. It wouldn't be your fault. It would be my choice. Same thing. Jacob pushed back from the table. May I be excused? Jacob, please, Dad. I need a minute. Cole looked torn but nodded. Jacob left, his footsteps heavy on the stairs. A door slammed upstairs. Nora's lip was trembling. Is Jacob mad at us? He's not mad at you, honey, Cole said. He's just processing. This is big news, and he needs time to think about it. I think it sounds like an adventure, Finn announced, apparently unbothered by his brother's reaction. Can we go to the Statue of Liberty? If we go, absolutely, Mara said. When would we leave? Nora asked quietly. Not for a few weeks, Cole said. We'd have time to prepare, say goodbye to friends, finish out the school year here first. Would we come back? Eventually, yes. This is our home. We're just borrowing New York for a little while. Nora considered this, her cereal getting soggy in her bowl. Can I think about it too? Of course you can. You all can. We don't have to decide right this second. After breakfast, Cole went upstairs to talk to Jacob while Mara helped Nora and Finn get ready for school. When the bus came, Nora hugged Mara a little tighter than usual. "I don't want things to change," she whispered. "I know, sweetheart. Change is scary. But you'll be there? In New York? If we go?" "I'll be there." Nora nodded against her shoulder, then pulled back and climbed onto the bus. Through the window, Mara could see Jacob sitting alone, staring out at nothing, and her heart ached for him. Cole came downstairs 20 minutes later, looking exhausted. "How'd it go?" Mara asked. "About as well as you'd expect. He's scared, angry, feeling like he doesn't have control over his life, which is fair because he doesn't." Cole slumped onto the couch. "He said some things." "About me?" "About the situation. About feeling like I'm replacing Sarah. About worrying that if we go to New York, we'll never come back, that I'll decide we should stay there permanently." Cole rubbed his face. "And yeah, some things about you. Nothing terrible, just he's protective. Of his mom's memory. Of our family. He sees you as a threat to that." "Maybe I am," Mara said quietly, sitting beside him. "You're not. You're just different. New. And new is terrifying when you've already lost so much. Do you think we're making a mistake, pushing this too fast?" Cole took her hand, threading their fingers together. "I don't know, maybe. But I also know that opportunities don't wait for perfect timing. And I have to believe, that we can make this work, that the kids will adjust, that this could be good for all of us. And if they can't adjust, if Jacob hates it, if this breaks something that can't be fixed, then we come home early. I tell my boss it didn't work out. I find another way to advance my career." Cole turned to face her fully. "Mara, I need you to understand something. I love you. I want a future with you. But my kids come first. They have to. If at any point this situation hurts them more than it helps, I'll end it, not us," he clarified quickly, seeing her expression. "But the New York plan, the living arrangement, whatever needs to change to protect them. I understand. And I agree. They should come first. But that doesn't mean your feelings don't matter, or that I don't want to figure out how to make everyone happy." He kissed her forehead. "We'll take it one day at a time, starting with getting through today." Today turned out to be harder than either of them anticipated. Jacob came home from school quiet and withdrawn. He did his homework in silence, barely touched his dinner, and went to bed early without saying goodnight. Nora was clingy, following Mara from room to room, asking questions about New York that seemed designed to find reassurance rather than information. Only Finn seemed unbothered, chattering about the dinosaur museums and asking if they could get a pet T-Rex. "You can't have a pet T-Rex," Nora told him for the 15th time. "Why not?" "Because they're extinct, dummy." "Don't call your brother a dummy," Mara said automatically, stirring pasta sauce. "Sorry. Because they're extinct, Finn." "What if we found one that wasn't extinct?" "Then we'd be famous and also probably eaten," Jacob said from the doorway. He'd come downstairs so quietly that none of them had noticed. Finn considered this. "Being famous would be cool. Being eaten wouldn't." "That's a fair assessment," Mara said, trying to catch Jacob's eye, but he was staring at the floor. "Can I talk to you?" Jacob asked, still not looking up. "Alone?" Mara's heart rate picked up, but she kept her voice calm. "Of course. Nora, can you watch the sauce? Just stir it every minute or so, don't let it burn." "I know how to watch sauce," Nora said with preteen exasperation. Mara followed Jacob to the living room. He sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped between his knees, the picture of a child trying very hard to be grown up. "What's on your mind?" Mara asked, sitting in the armchair across from him, giving him space. "I need to know something, and I need you to tell me the truth, not just what you think I want to hear." "Okay. Are you in love with my dad?" The question was so direct, so unchildlike, that Mara had to take a breath before answering. "Yes," she said. "I am." Jacob nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer but hoped for a different one. "And he loves you?" "He says he does." "Is that why you're coming to New York, because you love him?" "That's part of it, but it's also because I love you three. Because I want to help. Because I think I can make things easier for everyone. You can't replace her, Jacob said, his voice shaking. My mom. You can't just show up and act like you can be her. I know I can't. I'm not trying to. But you're doing her things, cooking our meals, helping with homework, braiding Nora's hair. Those were her things. Mara felt tears prickling at her eyes, but forced them back. This wasn't about her feelings. Jacob, those aren't your mom's things. Those are just things that need doing in a house with kids. Your mom did them because she loved you. I do them because I care about you. But that doesn't make me her replacement. It just makes me someone else who wants to take care of you. What if we go to New York and everything changes? What if Dad likes it better there and decides we should stay? What if we never come back and I forget what Mom looked like? There it was, the real fear underneath all the anger. Mara moved to sit beside him on the couch, close but not touching. Jacob, I can't promise you that nothing will change. Things are already changing, and they'll keep changing whether we go to New York or not. That's just life. But I can promise you this, your dad will never let you forget your mom, and neither will I. If we go to New York, we'll bring pictures of her, we'll talk about her, we'll make sure her memory comes with us. You didn't even know her. No, but I'd like to. Through you and Nora and Finn, through your dad's stories. If you want to tell me about her, I want to listen. Jacob was quiet for a long moment. She used to make these really elaborate blanket forts, like engineering-level forts with different rooms and tunnels, and she'd help us defend them from Dad, who had to pretend to be a dragon. She sounds creative. She was. And funny. She did this thing where she'd narrate our lives like we were in a nature documentary. Here we see the wild Jacob in his natural habitat, approaching the refrigerator. His voice cracked on the imitation, somewhere between a laugh and a sob. That's a good memory, Mara said softly. I have a lot of good memories, but they're getting fuzzier. Like looking at them through a dirty window, and that scares me more than anything. Then we'll polish the window. We'll keep those memories clear. I'll help however I can. Jacob finally looked at her, his eyes red-rimmed. Why do you even want to help us? You could just leave. Get your own place. Start your own life. Why would you tie yourself to someone else's broken family? You're not broken, Mara said firmly. You're healing. There's a difference. And I want to help because somewhere along the way, you stopped being someone else's family and started feeling like mine. We're not your family. Maybe not officially, not yet. But feelings don't wait for paperwork. Jacob wiped his eyes roughly. If we go to New York, and I hate it, will you promise we can come back? I can't promise that. It's not my decision. But I can promise I'll advocate for what's best for you. All of you. Even if that means cutting the trip short. And you won't try to make us call you Mom or anything weird like that? Never. You already have a mom. Her name was Sarah, and she loved you more than anything. Okay. Jacob took a shaky breath. Okay, I'm not saying I'm happy about this, but I'm saying I won't fight it. If Dad thinks we should go, I'll go. That's very mature of you. Yeah, well, somebody has to be mature around here. Finn still thinks dinosaurs can be pets. Mara smiled. To be fair, that would be pretty cool. Until it ate us. Until it ate us, she agreed. They sat together in companionable silence until Nora called from the kitchen that the sauce was starting to bubble funny, and she didn't know if that was normal. Over the next 2 weeks, the household slowly adjusted to the idea of New York. Cole accepted the promotion officially, with a start date 6 weeks out. They talked to the kids' schools about transferring records. They researched neighborhoods in New York with good schools and family-friendly apartments. Rachel came over twice more, less hostile now, but still watchful, like she was waiting for Mara to reveal herself as a fraud. Mara's divorce proceedings moved forward with painful slowness. Richard was contesting everything, dragging out the process with petty disputes about furniture and dishes and wedding gifts. The lawyer Cole had recommended was worth her weight in gold, fighting for Mara's rights with a fierceness that made her feel protected for the first time in years. He's trying to wear you down, the lawyer explained during one of their phone calls. Make you so exhausted that you'll settle for less than you deserve. Don't let him. I won't, Mara promised and meant it. She also started therapy. Cole had suggested it gently, mentioning that he'd found it helpful after Sarah died, and Mara had surprised herself by immediately agreeing. She saw Dr. Morrison twice a week, working through the layers of damage Richard had inflicted, the ways she'd learned to make herself small, the fear that she wasn't worthy of the love Cole offered. "You keep talking about earning his love," Dr. Morrison observed during their fourth session, "as if love is something you have to qualify for." "Isn't it?" Mara asked. "Healthy love isn't transactional. It's not a reward for good behavior or a prize for meeting certain criteria. It's a choice to value someone, flaws and all." "That sounds nice in theory, but you don't believe it applies to you." Mara looked at her hands. "Richard said I was defective, broken, that I couldn't give him what he needed, so I wasn't worth keeping. How am I supposed to believe Cole won't feel the same way eventually?" "Has Cole given you any indication that his love is conditional?" "No, but Richard didn't either at first. He seemed like he loved me until he didn't." "So you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Cole to find your breaking point and leave. Isn't that what people do?" Dr. Morrison leaned forward. "Some people do, but not everyone. And the fact that Richard did doesn't mean Cole will. You're projecting one man's failures onto another man's character." "So what do I do?" "You practice trusting. You let yourself be vulnerable, even though it's terrifying. And when that voice in your head tells you you're not worthy, you challenge it with evidence to the contrary." It was hard work, harder than Mara had expected. But slowly, incrementally, she began to believe that maybe she was allowed to have this. That maybe Cole's love wasn't a trap or a trick, but simply what he said it was, real. 3 weeks before the move, they had their first real fight. It started over something stupid. Mara had organized the kids' closets, donating old clothes to make packing easier, and Cole came home to find bags of clothing by the door. He'd frozen, staring at a particular pink sweater that had belonged to Sarah. "Why is this in the donation bag?" His voice was tight. "Nora hasn't worn it in 2 years. It doesn't fit her anymore." "That was Sarah's. She made it herself. It's not trash." "I didn't say it was trash. I said Nora doesn't wear it. So we keep it, for memories." "Cole, you can't keep everything. You have entire boxes in the attic full of Sarah's things. At some point, you have to let go." The words were out before Mara realized how they'd sound. Cole's expression went cold. "Let go? Of my wife?" "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant. You want me to box up Sarah like she never existed so you can slide into her place more comfortably." "That's not fair," Mara said, her own anger rising. "I have never asked you to forget Sarah. I've encouraged the kids to talk about her. I've looked at photo albums with them. I've listened to stories about her for hours. Don't you dare accuse me of trying to erase her." "Then why are you trying to get rid of her things?" "Because Nora needs space in her suitcase for clothes that actually fit. Because we're moving across the country and can't take everything. Because holding on to a sweater doesn't keep Sarah alive, Cole. Your memories of her do. Your kids do. But a piece of clothing is just a piece of clothing." "You don't understand." "You're right, I don't. I don't understand what it's like to lose someone you love that way. But I do understand what it's like to be compared to a ghost and found wanting, and I won't do that. I won't spend the rest of my life competing with a memory." Cole stared at her, breathing hard. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I love you. I love those kids. But if you can't make room in your life for me because you're too busy clinging to the past, then maybe this won't work. Maybe I should find my own place after all." The silence that followed was terrible. Mara wanted to take the words back, but they'd been said. They hung between them like a wall. Finally, Cole spoke. "You're right." "What?" "You're right. I'm sorry." He sat down heavily on the stairs, the pink sweater still in his hands. "I've been so focused on keeping Sarah alive through objects that I forgot the objects aren't what matter. The kids need space in their suitcases. They need to move forward, and so do I." Mara sat beside him, her anger draining away. "I'm sorry too. I shouldn't have pushed. I know this is hard." "No, you should have. I needed to hear it." Cole looked at the sweater, running his thumb over the knitting. "Sarah would have liked you, I think. She always respected people who spoke their minds." "Tell me about her. Really tell me. Not just the perfect memories. The real her." So he did. He told Mara about Sarah's terrible singing voice and her habit of leaving cabinet doors open, about her impatience with bureaucracy and her tendency to start projects she never finished, about the fights they'd had over money and time management and whose turn it was to change diapers, about the messy, complicated, real love they'd shared. She wasn't perfect, Cole said finally. Neither was our marriage, but it was ours, and I loved it. I loved her. And I'm terrified that loving you means betraying that. It doesn't, Mara said softly. Love isn't finite. You can love her memory and love me at the same time. They don't cancel each other out. My head knows that. My heart's still catching up. Then we'll give it time to catch up, together. Cole leaned his head on her shoulder, exhausted. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. And I don't deserve you. So I guess we're even. They sat there on the stairs until Finn came looking for them, wanting to show them a drawing he'd made of the whole family as dinosaurs. Mara was a purple triceratops with flowers on her horns. Cole was a T-Rex in a tie. The kids were various smaller dinosaurs, all holding hands. This is beautiful, buddy, Cole said, his voice thick. I made you for our new house in New York, Finn explained. So we remember we're a family even when things are different. Out of the mouths of babes, Mara thought, meeting Cole's eyes over Finn's head. They shared a look of understanding, of forgiveness, of commitment to keep trying. The remaining weeks flew by in a blur of packing and planning and paperwork. Mara's divorce was still ongoing, but the lawyer had secured temporary spousal support that made her feel less dependent on Cole's generosity. She had her own money now, small as it was. Her own income from the substitute teaching work. Her own sense of agency. The night before they left for New York, they had a goodbye dinner with Rachel. She'd softened considerably over the weeks, especially after seeing how Mara handled the kids during a particularly difficult day when Nora had a meltdown about leaving her best friend. I was wrong about you, Rachel said quietly while Cole was putting the kids to bed. I thought you were using my brother. I'm sorry. You were protecting your family. I respect that. You are family now, I think, whether I like it or not. Rachel smiled to show she was joking. Take care of them, please. I will, I promise. And take care of yourself, too. Don't get so lost in being what they need that you forget who you are. It was good advice. Mara held on to it as they loaded into the car the next morning. 3 kids and 2 adults and more luggage than seemed possible, heading toward the airport and the adventure beyond. On the plane, Finn fell asleep on Mara's shoulder. Nora held her hand during takeoff, nervous about flying. Jacob sat by the window watching Minneapolis disappear beneath them, looking both sad and excited. Cole reached across the aisle and took Mara's free hand. Ready? He asked. Mara looked at the children, at this man who'd given her a second chance at life, at the impossible family she'd somehow acquired. Ready, she said. And she was. New York hit them like a wave. The noise, the crowds, the relentless energy of a city that never stopped moving. Their apartment in Brooklyn was smaller than the house in Minneapolis, the walls thinner, the neighbors closer. For the first week, none of them slept well. Sirens woke Finn at night. Nora complained that everything smelled weird. Jacob retreated into sullen silence, headphones permanently attached to his ears. Cole left for the office at 6 each morning and rarely returned before 8 at night. The new position demanded everything from him, his time, his energy, his focus. He came home exhausted, barely able to stay awake through dinner, falling asleep on the couch with his tie still on. Mara held things together through sheer force of will. She enrolled the kids in their new schools, navigating bureaucracy in a city where everyone seemed perpetually impatient. She learned the subway system, figured out which bodega had the best snacks, found the nearest library and park. She cooked meals in a kitchen half the size of the one she'd grown used to, helped with homework at a table that barely fit all of them, and tried to make this unfamiliar place feel like home. It was exhausting. Some nights, after the kids were finally asleep, she'd sit on the tiny balcony and cry quietly, wondering what she'd gotten herself into. She missed Minneapolis. She missed the routine they'd established. She missed having Cole present for more than a few rushed minutes. But she didn't leave. She'd promised she wouldn't, and she kept her promises. 6 weeks into their New York adventure, things came to a head. It was a Tuesday, unremarkable, except for how spectacularly wrong everything went. Jacob got detention for talking back to a teacher. Nora came home with head lice from a classmate. Finn had a complete meltdown in the grocery store because they didn't have his favorite cereal. And Mara, trying to juggle all of it while also dealing with a phone call from her divorce lawyer about Richard contesting the spousal support, finally broke. She didn't mean to cry in front of the kids. She'd held it together through the lice treatment, through the lecture about respect for teachers, through Finn's tantrum. But when she burned dinner because she'd been too distracted to notice the smoke alarm going off, something inside her just cracked. The tears came hot and fast, unstoppable. She stood in the kitchen with a pot of blackened pasta, smoke still hanging in the air, and sobbed. "Mara?" Nora's voice was small, scared. "I'm sorry," Mara managed. "I'm fine. I just need a minute." "You're crying," Finn observed, stating the obvious with the directness of a 5-year-old. "I know, buddy. Sometimes grown-ups cry. It's okay." "Is it because we're bad?" Nora asked, her own eyes filling with tears. "Because of my lice and Jacob's detention and—" "No." Mara set down the pot, wiped her eyes, and pulled Nora into a hug. "No, sweetheart. You're not bad. None of you are bad. I'm just tired and overwhelmed, but that's not your fault. Everything's different here," Jacob said quietly from the doorway. "We all hate it." "Do you?" Mara looked at each of them. "Really hate it?" They exchanged glances, that silent sibling communication she'd learned to recognize. "I miss our old house," Nora admitted, "and my friends. I miss my room," Finn added. "This room is small." "I miss Dad," Jacob said, and that hurt more than anything else. "He's never here anymore." Mara sat down at the table, suddenly too tired to stand. "I miss him too." "Then why are we doing this?" Jacob asked, frustration sharpening his voice. "If everyone's miserable, why are we staying?" It was a fair question, one Mara had been asking herself late at night when she couldn't sleep. "Because sometimes," she said slowly, "we have to go through hard things to get to good things. Your dad needed this opportunity. It's important for his career, for your future. And I have to believe, that we can make it through this rough patch." "What if we can't?" Nora whispered. "Then we'll figure something else out. But we haven't really tried yet, not as a team." Mara looked at each of them. "I can't do this alone. I need your help. We need to work together." "How?" Jacob asked skeptically. "I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. Together." When Cole came home at 9:30 that night, he found all 4 of them asleep on the living room couch, tangled together like puppies. Mara woke as he was trying to figure out how to extract Finn without waking everyone. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey yourself, what happened here?" "Long day. We had a family meeting and then watched a movie and everyone just crashed." Cole sat on the coffee table looking at his sleeping children with an expression of such profound love and exhaustion that Mara's heart ached. "I'm failing them," he said quietly. "Aren't I? I'm so focused on work that I'm missing everything." "You're not failing anyone. You're doing what you need to do." "But they need me. You need me. And I'm never here." "Then be here when you can. Really be here. Not just physically present, but mentally, emotionally here." Cole rubbed his face. "The project I'm heading, it's supposed to wrap up in 4 more months. But my boss hinted today that they want me to stay on permanently. Make New York my base of operations." Mara's stomach dropped. "What did you say?" "I said I needed to talk to my family first, that it wasn't a decision I could make alone." He met her eyes. "What do you think?" "I think you should ask your kids what they think." "I'm asking you." Mara looked at the children sleeping peacefully, their faces relaxed in ways they rarely were during waking hours anymore. "I think they're struggling. I think they miss home. I think Jacob's right. We're all a little miserable right now. But I also think we're adjusting. It's only been 6 weeks. Maybe we need more time. Or maybe I need to accept that this isn't working and tell my boss no." "Is that what you want?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know what I want anymore. I wanted this promotion for so long, and now that I have it, all I can think about is what it's costing. Time with the kids, time with you, peace of mind." "Nothing worth having comes easy," Mara said softly, Isn't that what you told me once? When I was afraid to fight Richard for what I deserved? That was different. Was it? You fought for this opportunity. You earned it. Don't give up just because it's hard right now. Even if it means everyone's unhappy? I didn't say I was unhappy. I said I was overwhelmed. There's a difference. Cole reached for her hand. I don't deserve you. We've had this conversation. Yes, you do. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the sounds of the city beyond their windows. Finally, Cole spoke again. What if we made some changes? I could talk to my boss about adjusted hours. Come in later, leave earlier, work from home 1 day a week. Would he go for that? Only one way to find out. And we could find things to do as a family on weekends. Museums, parks, exploring the city. Make New York feel less like a prison and more like an adventure. The kids would like that. What would you like? Cole asked, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. Mara thought about it. What did she want? I'd like to feel less like I'm drowning. Maybe find a job, something part-time, something that's mine. You could substitute teach here too. Maybe, or maybe something different. I've been thinking about taking a cooking class, maybe exploring that more seriously. You're an amazing cook. I'm an adequate cook who follows recipes. There's a difference. So take classes, explore it, chase something that makes you happy. We can't afford for me to chase hobbies when we're barely making ends meet here. Cole squeezed her hand. We're making ends meet fine. And you're not a hobby. You're a person who deserves to have interests and passions outside of taking care of other people. That sounds like something Dr. Morrison would say. Smart woman, that Dr. Morrison. Mara smiled despite everything. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who's made enough mistakes to recognize them when he's making new ones. He stood, gently scooping up Finn. Come on, let's get these guys to bed properly. They carried the children to their rooms, tucked them in, and stood together in the hallway afterward, Cole's arm around Mara's shoulders. We're going to be okay, he said softly. All of us. How do you know? Because we love each other, and love finds a way. It sounded like something from a greeting card, but Mara chose to believe it anyway. The next morning, Cole called in late to work and made breakfast for everyone. Pancakes with chocolate chips, just the way Finn liked them. He sat with them while they ate, really sat, asking about school and friends and plans. He listened to Nora's detailed explanation of her ongoing feud with a girl named Madison. He helped Jacob with a math problem he'd been stuck on. He built a tower out of Finn's dinosaur toys and let Finn knock it down. When he finally left for the office at 10, the kids seemed lighter somehow, happier. I like when Daddy does breakfast, Finn announced. Me too, Mara agreed. That weekend, they went to the Museum of Natural History. Finn nearly lost his mind at the dinosaur exhibits, pressing his face against the glass and asking a million questions that Mara couldn't answer. Jacob found the planetarium show unexpectedly fascinating. Nora bought a necklace with a geode pendant from the gift shop and wore it like a treasure. They got pizza afterward, greasy and perfect, eating it on a bench in Central Park while watching street performers. For the first time since arriving in New York, they felt like a family again instead of 4 separate people enduring parallel hardships. This was a good day, Nora said on the subway ride home, leaning against Mara's shoulder. It was, Mara agreed. Cole met her eyes over the children's heads and smiled. A real smile, full of hope and promise and possibility. Things didn't magically get better overnight. There were still hard days, still moments when Mara questioned everything. But slowly, incrementally, New York began to feel less like exile and more like an adventure they were choosing together. Cole negotiated new hours at work. In by 7, out by 5, work from home on Fridays. It meant earlier mornings but present evenings, dinner as a family, homework help, bedtime stories. The senior partners grumbled but agreed, impressed enough with his work to make accommodations. Mara enrolled in a culinary arts program at a community college, 2 evenings a week. She discovered she loved it, the precision of technique, the creativity of flavor combinations, the alchemy of turning raw ingredients into something extraordinary. Her instructor, a stern French woman named Chef Dubois, told her she had natural talent. You should consider this professionally, Chef Dubois said one evening after Mara had perfectly executed a complicated sauce. I'm 34 years old with no formal training. So? Julia Child didn't start cooking until she was almost 40. Age is irrelevant. Passion is everything. The idea took root. Mara started researching culinary careers, talking to people in the industry, imagining a future where cooking wasn't just something she did for family, but something she did for herself. Meanwhile, the kids adjusted. Jacob made friends with a boy in his class who shared his love of reading. They started a book club of two, spending lunch periods arguing about character motivations and plot holes. Nora joined the school's art club and discovered a talent for painting. Finn, naturally, became the class expert on dinosaurs and appointed himself the teacher's helper during science lessons. 4 months into their New York stay, Richard finally settled the divorce. The fight had been ugly and protracted, but Mara's lawyer had been relentless. In the end, Mara got half their shared assets, 3 years of spousal support, and her freedom. The day the papers were finalized, she felt lighter than she had in years. "It's done," she told Cole that night, holding the official documents. "I'm officially divorced. How do you feel?" "Free, terrified, relieved, all of it at once." "You know what this means, right?" Cole asked, his expression serious. "What?" He got down on one knee right there in the kitchen, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. The kids appeared in the doorway as if summoned, all three of them trying and failing to look surprised. "You knew about this," Mara accused them. "Dad made us promise not to tell," Nora said, practically vibrating with excitement. "It was really hard," Finn added. "Mara Ellison," Cole said, and his voice was steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "the day I found you in that bus shelter was the day my life changed. You brought light back into this house, into my heart, into my children's lives. You've stood by us through moves and meltdowns in Manhattan. You've been patient with my grief, gentle with my kids, and strong in ways I didn't know were possible." He opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a single diamond. Not flashy, not enormous, but perfect. "I'm not asking you to replace Sarah. I'm asking you to build something new with me. A family that honors the past but lives in the present. Will you marry me?" Mara looked at this man who'd saved her life in every way that mattered, at these children who'd let her into their hearts despite their fears, at the life they'd built together from broken pieces. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, absolutely, yes." The kids erupted into cheers. Finn launched himself at Mara, nearly knocking her over. Nora was crying happy tears. Even Jacob was grinning, actually grinning, wider than Mara had seen since they'd arrived in New York. Cole slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her all along. "We're really getting married?" Nora asked, as if she needed confirmation. "We really are," Cole confirmed. "Can I be the flower girl?" "You can be whatever you want to be." "I want to be a dinosaur," Finn announced. "You can't be a dinosaur at a wedding," Jacob told him. "Why not?" "Because dinosaurs can't carry rings. I could carry rings if I was a dinosaur. I'd carry them in my mouth really carefully." Mara laughed, the sound bubbling up from somewhere deep and joyful. "We'll figure out the details later. For now, can we just celebrate?" They ordered takeout, Chinese food from the place down the street that they'd become regulars at. They ate it spread across the coffee table, passing cartons back and forth, talking about wedding plans and the future and all the possibilities ahead of them. Later, after the kids were asleep, Cole and Mara stood on their tiny balcony, looking out at the city lights. "I never thought I'd have this again," Cole said quietly. "Love, partnership, someone to share the good days and the hard ones. Neither did I. I thought I was broken, defective, not worth keeping. You were never any of those things. You were just with someone too small to see your worth." Mara leaned into him, feeling his solid warmth, his steady heartbeat. "Thank you for seeing me, for choosing me. Thank you for choosing us, for taking a chance on a widower and 3 grieving kids. Best decision I ever made." They stood there in the cold November air, wrapped in each other and the impossible beauty of second chances, while below them the city pulsed with life and light and endless possibility. When Cole's 6-month contract ended, his boss made the expected offer: stay permanently, full partnership, significant raise. Cole asked for a week to decide and took the question home to his family. They sat around the dinner table, all five of them, discussing it like the democracy they'd become. I like New York now, Nora said. I didn't at first, but I have friends here, and my art teacher says I could apply to special programs. The museums are really good, Finn added, and we're close to the beach. Beaches are cool, even though they don't have dinosaurs. Jacob was quiet, thinking. Finally, he spoke. I miss Minneapolis, but I like it here too. I like our school. I like my friends. I like that we're close to so many bookstores. He paused. But mostly, I like that we're all together. I don't really care where we live as long as we're a family. Mara's eyes filled with tears. This boy who'd been so resistant, so protective of his mother's memory, had become one of her biggest champions. What about you? Cole asked her. I'm enrolled in culinary school here. I've made connections, started to build something, but I could do that anywhere if I needed to. She looked at each of them. I'm happy wherever you all are. That's a cop-out answer, Jacob said, but he was smiling. What do you really want? Mara thought about it honestly. I want you kids to have opportunities. I want Cole to thrive in his career. I want us to be challenged and growing. I think New York offers us that in ways Minneapolis maybe didn't. So we're staying? Nora asked. If that's what we all decide, Cole said. This is a family choice. They voted. 4 yes votes, 1 abstention from Finn, who said he'd be happy anywhere as long as he could keep his dinosaur collection. Cole accepted the permanent position. They signed a lease on a slightly bigger apartment in the same neighborhood. They started planning a wedding for the following spring. Mara graduated from her culinary program at the top of her class. Chef Dubois offered her an apprenticeship at her restaurant, unpaid but invaluable experience. Mara accepted, working dinner shifts 3 nights a week while Cole managed the kids' bedtime routine. It wasn't easy. Nothing about blending their lives together was easy. There were still hard days, still arguments about discipline and money and whose turn it was to do laundry. There were still moments when Jacob retreated into grief for the mother he'd lost. Still times when Nora's preteen emotions overwhelmed everyone. Still instances when Finn's energy exhausted them all. But there was also laughter, joy, love that grew deeper and stronger with every challenge they faced together. The wedding happened on a perfect April afternoon in a botanical garden in Brooklyn. Mara wore a simple ivory dress, wildflowers in her hair. Cole wore a suit that made him look like the leading man he'd always been to her. Jacob and Finn were ring bearers, coordinating their delivery with the seriousness of a military operation. Nora was the flower girl, scattering petals with artistic flair. Rachel cried through the whole ceremony. Mara's father flew in from Arizona, meeting his new grandchildren for the first time, and looking overwhelmed by the loud, chaotic love of this family his daughter had found. During the vows, Cole surprised everyone by adding something unscripted. Sarah, he said, looking up at the sky, I will love you until the day I die. You gave me 3 beautiful children and 10 wonderful years. But I know, I have to believe, that you'd want me to live fully, to love again, to give our kids a complete family. Mara has brought us back to life. I hope you approve. I think you would have liked her. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. When it was Mara's turn, she looked at the children. Jacob, Nora, Finn, I'm not replacing your mother. No one could. But I promise to honor her memory, to love you with everything I have, and to be someone you can always count on. You 3 saved my life just as much as your father did. Thank you for letting me be part of your family. The officiant barely got through the pronouncement before Finn shouted, Now you can kiss! Everyone laughed. Cole kissed Mara thoroughly while the children cheered and the guests applauded and the spring sun blessed them all with golden light. The reception was small but joyful. They danced, all 5 of them together, to songs that ranged from classical to ridiculous. They ate cake, 3 tiers that Mara had helped bake with Chef Dubois' supervision. They celebrated not just a marriage but a family choosing each other, broken pieces forming something new and whole and beautiful. During the father-daughter dance, Cole danced with both Nora and Mara, switching off every minute, making both of them feel precious and cherished. When it was over, Jacob asked Mara to dance. I never thought I'd be okay with this, he admitted, as they swayed to a slow song. With Dad remarrying, with someone new in Mom's place. I'm not in your mom's place, Mara said gently. I'm in my own place. There's room for both of us in your heart. I know that now, and I'm glad. I'm glad Dad found you. I'm glad we found you. He paused. Can I ask you something? Anything. Would it be okay if sometimes I called you Mom? Not all the time, but sometimes? Mara's vision blurred with tears. Jacob, I would be honored, more than you could possibly know. Okay, good. He cleared his throat, uncomfortable with emotion. Also, Finn really does want to know if he can get a pet dinosaur. He asked me to ask you because he thinks you're more likely to say yes, son. Mara laughed through her tears. No dinosaurs, but maybe we could talk about a dog. Really? Really, every family needs a dog. Jacob's face lit up. That would be amazing. Thanks, Mom. The word hung in the air between them, precious and profound. Mara hugged him tight, this boy who'd been so angry and resistant, who'd become one of her greatest joys. Years passed in the way years do when you're living them fully. Mara's apprenticeship turned into a sous chef position, Cole made partner at his firm. The kids grew taller, smarter, more themselves. They got a dog, a golden retriever named Biscuit, who Finn insisted was descended from dinosaurs because all birds were and dogs were basically large birds. They went back to Minneapolis every summer, visiting Rachel and maintaining connections to the place they'd come from. But New York was home now, with its noise and crowds and endless energy. On Nora's high school graduation day, Mara sat between Cole and the boys in the auditorium, watching their daughter, because Nora was their daughter in every way that mattered, prepare to give the valedictorian speech. Nora stepped up to the podium, poised and confident, her mother's necklace at her throat and her own strength in her eyes. My mom taught me something important, Nora began, and Mara's breath caught. She taught me that some people will try to tell you you're broken, that you're not enough, that you need to be fixed or changed or different to be worthy of love. But you're not broken. You just haven't been seen by the right hearts yet. She paused, her eyes finding Mara in the crowd. My father found her on a snowy night 10 years ago. She was sitting in a bus shelter with nowhere to go and no one to call. Another man had thrown her away, told her she was defective, not worth keeping. But my dad saw something different. He saw someone worth saving, worth loving, worth choosing. Mara felt Cole's hand find hers, squeezing tight. She didn't just save him, though everyone thinks that's the story. She saved all of us. She showed up when we were broken too, grieving our mother, lost in the dark. And she loved us anyway. She chose us anyway. She built a family with us, not because she needed to replace what we'd lost, but because she saw us and decided we were worth fighting for. Tears were streaming down Mara's face now. Jacob handed her a tissue without looking away from his sister. So if you're sitting there feeling broken, feeling like you're not enough, feeling like no one will ever choose you, I want you to know something. You are enough. You are worthy. And somewhere out there, there's a family waiting for you. Maybe it's the one you're born into. Maybe it's the one you build, but it's there, waiting for you to find it, waiting for you to be brave enough to let them choose you. Nora looked directly at Mara. Thank you, Mom, for being brave enough to let us choose you, for choosing us back, for showing me that sometimes the best families are the ones we build from broken pieces. The auditorium erupted in applause. Mara was sobbing openly now, not caring who saw. Cole pulled her close, his own eyes wet. Our daughter, he whispered. Look at what we raised. Look at what she became, Mara corrected. After the ceremony, they took photos in the courtyard. All 5 of them together, Biscuit included, because Finn had smuggled him in his backpack. Nora in her cap and gown, radiant with accomplishment and joy. Jacob with his arm around his sister, protective even in celebration. Finn making faces behind everyone's heads. Cole and Mara in the middle of it all, the anchor points around which this beautiful chaos had organized itself. Remember when you found me in that bus shelter? Mara asked Cole quietly, while the photographer adjusted his camera. Every day, Cole said. Best decision I ever made, stopping to check on a stranger in the snow. Second best, Mara corrected, smiling. The best decision was asking me to stay. No, Cole said, kissing her temple. The best decision was you saying yes. They went to dinner afterward, a noisy Italian place where the waiters knew them by name and always brought extra bread for Finn. They celebrated Nora's achievement, toasted her future, embarrassed her with stories from her childhood that she pretended to hate but secretly loved. Walking home afterward through the Brooklyn streets, Nora fell into step beside Mara. "Did you mean it?" she asked quietly. "What you said about me being your daughter." "Every word," Mara said without hesitation. "You're my daughter in every way that matters." "Good, because you're my mom. I know I had another mom, and I'll always love her, but you're my mom too. Is that okay?" "More than okay. It's everything." Nora hugged her tight right there on the sidewalk while the city moved around them, millions of people with millions of stories, and theirs just one among many. But it was theirs, hard-won and precious and real. That night, after everyone was asleep, Mara stood on their balcony looking out at the city lights. She thought about the woman she'd been 10 years ago, freezing in a bus shelter, convinced her life was over. She thought about Richard's cruelty, the divorce papers, the snow that had seemed determined to bury her. She thought about how close she'd come to giving up, to just letting the cold take her. And then she thought about what came after. The warm coat, the hot chocolate, the children who'd accepted her without question, the man who'd loved her without conditions, the family they'd built from broken pieces. Cole joined her on the balcony, sliding his arms around her waist from behind. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How different things are now. How grateful I am." "For what?" "For you, for the kids, for second chances." She turned in his arms to face him. "For that snowy night when you stopped to help a stranger." "You were never a stranger," Cole said. "You were always meant to be ours. We just had to find you first." Mara thought about that bus shelter one more time, the cold and the dark and the despair. She thought about how one moment, one choice, one act of kindness had changed the trajectory of her entire life. She thought about Richard, who'd called her defective and thrown her away, and she felt nothing but pity for him. He'd had something precious and hadn't recognized it. His loss. Her gain. "I love you," she told Cole. "I love our life. I love our family. I love everything we've built together." "I love you too," Cole said, kissing her softly. "Thank you for staying, for fighting, for being brave enough to believe you deserved better. Thank you for showing me I did." They stood together on their balcony high above Brooklyn, two people who'd found each other in the worst of circumstances and built something beautiful in spite of it. Below them, the city hummed with life and possibility. Around them, their children slept safe and loved. Within them, gratitude and hope, and the kind of love that survives anything. Mara Ellison had been thrown away like trash, told she was broken beyond repair, left to freeze in a December snowstorm. But she hadn't frozen. She'd survived. And in surviving, she'd discovered something her ex-husband would never understand. She'd never been broken at all. She'd just been waiting for the right hands to recognize her worth, for the right hearts to choose her, for the right family to show her what love actually looked like when it was real. And now, standing in Cole's arms with her children sleeping nearby, and her whole life stretched out ahead of her, Mara finally understood the truth. She hadn't been rescued that snowy night. She'd been recognized, valued, chosen, loved. And in the end, that made all the difference. The story that had begun in a bus shelter in the snow ended here, in a Brooklyn apartment filled with light and laughter and the beautiful chaos of family. It ended not with rescue, but with recognition. Not with being saved, but with being seen. Most importantly, it ended with Mara Ellison finally, completely, home.